Today we're checking out the new Redmi Note 14 by Xiaomi. The price for this is just under $200, so easily one of the most affordable phones, but I'll leave a link down below with current pricing and more information. Now there are some odd differences between the 4G and 5G model, so hopefully you won't get confused. It's currently on Android 14. You've got up to 4 years software updates, 6 years security updates on the 4G version versus only 2 years software updates and 4 years security on the 5G model. To me, you would think it's the other way around, but again, kind of strange. It's got a 6.67-inch AMOLED display at up to 120 Hz refresh rate, up to 1800 nits brightness on the 4G model versus 2100 nits peak brightness on the 5G version. At 1080 by 2400 resolution, it's also using Gorilla Glass 5 with the option of 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage, and you can go up to 256 gigabytes. You can also expand the storage with a micro SD card. It's got Bluetooth 5.3. Definitely has nicer build quality than you would think for a phone in this category. Sort of a boxy or squared off edge on the sides. Also looks like it has a built-in screen protector. Of course, it has the Xiaomi Hyper OS software, so it's going to be very similar to other Xiaomi or Redmi devices. Pretty similar size bezels on the top and sides, maybe just slightly larger at the bottom. Also includes its own case, which is always a nice touch. When setting up, you get the option of fingerprint and face unlock as well. The fingerprint scanner on here actually seems to work pretty good. You also have the option of Classic, where it puts all the apps on the home screen, or you can do an app drawer on here as well. I like the hole punch style for the front-facing camera. Definitely nicer than what you see on the Galaxy A16. Kind of interesting wallpaper on here. Good thing is there's about 1 million different wallpapers and themes to choose from. Left of the home screen, you have Google Discover. It definitely has some extra apps pre-installed on here, but obviously you can uninstall those if you want. It's actually using about 38 gigabytes of the 256 available, which does sound like a lot, but again, you can uninstall a lot of the pre-installed apps on here. I actually think the screen quality on here is probably nicer than what most people would think on an entry-level device like this. It's got good contrast, colors seem nice and vibrant, and definitely seems bright enough in my opinion. You can also watch up to 1440p resolution for YouTube videos. You also have the option of 60 Hz or 120 for the screen refresh rate, or you can just leave it on default where it switches automatically. Swipe down anywhere on the home screen to do a search. Notifications up to the left hand corner. Control center up in the right hand corner. And you've got a lot of different stuff that you can add, like Dolby Atmos, auto brightness, screencast, battery saver, and so on. Overall, I like what they're doing with the software. Definitely takes a little bit getting used to it if you're coming from Samsung. But overall, I like what they're doing with the software. You also get a MediaTek Helio G99 Ultra processor in the 4G model versus MediaTek Dimensity 7025 Ultra for the 5G model, up to 1800 nits brightness on the 4G model versus 2100 nits peak brightness on the 5G version. Just looking at the Geekbench scores, this has pretty similar results to the Galaxy A16 from Samsung, maybe slightly lower, but it surprisingly feels a little smoother than I was expecting for an entry-level phone. Sort of the same thing when it comes to gaming. While it may not have the highest graphics or frame rates, it seems to play PUBG Mobile and Asphalt Legends Unite pretty smooth on here. Plus, I didn't notice any overheating or excessive battery drain in my testing, so that's good to see as well. This also has a 5500 milliamp hour battery with 33 watt fast charging versus 45 watts for the 5G model. That one also has a little bit smaller battery. I also ran my typical battery drain test at 100% screen brightness, and this one lasted about 16 hours, which is really good. Right up there with some of the top devices that I've tested as far as battery life goes. So you should get a couple days with the normal use, especially if you turn the screen brightness down. The speakers on here are actually nice and loud. It might not be the best quality, probably could use a little better bass, but definitely loud enough for pretty much anything that you would listen to. Surprisingly, it still has a headphone jack as well. Here's a quick sample just to give you an idea of how it sounds. As you fade away. You've got a 108 megapixel main lens on the back, 2 megapixel macro and 2 megapixel depth lens, 20 megapixel camera on the front. In the camera app, you've got Pro, Documents, Video, Photo, Portrait, Night. Under More, you've got 108 megapixel panorama, slow motion, dual video, and long exposure. You can shoot up to 1080p resolution at 30 frames per second. Definitely not the fastest shutter speed on here, which is kind of expected for an entry-level device like this. Here's a few samples of photo and video, just to give you an idea of what to expect on the Redmi Note 14. Video quality on this phone is just okay at 1080p resolution. It struggles a little bit when trying to focus sometimes, but photo quality on here is actually quite nice, especially considering it's an entry-level phone. It's sort of crazy how good cheaper phones have gotten when it comes to taking photos. I may have to compare this a little closer to the Galaxy A16 to see how it compares, but it's definitely a nice entry-level option that I think will surprise some people considering the cost. If you like phones, tablets, and other tech as usual, I've got a lot more stuff that I'm working on, hopefully to help you decide between devices. So keep an eye out for those upcoming videos.
So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.